Welcome, everybody, to another episode of D-1 All-Stars. We're really excited this day to introduce our next guest. Just a reminder of what D1 All-Stars is. This is really a show that's broadcasting and promoting and showing off the gems that we have in our community within our district in northwestern Fitchburg. We want to highlight your neighbors so that you can know one another and you can also know what folks are bringing to the community. Our guest today is Nate Hobart. He is the pastor at Redeemer City Church, which is located in the King James neighborhood. He's here to talk to us about himself, his family, the neighborhood, and also the awesome things that Redeemer City Church does. So, Nate, welcome.
It's so good to be here with you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Joe.
Absolutely. And Nate, I know we met back when I was running for office. I had a colleague who was on the council already who told me you got to meet Nate, you got to meet Casey, and got to know both of you well, and just over the course of the past couple of years, really have seen you all lend a helping hand and be there for the community. So. Just to start off, I wanted to give you the chance to tell your story. So just tell us, about you, how you got here.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long you want to go or how far back you want to go, but I was born in Wisconsin, lived here for like my first year of life, and then grew up most of my life actually in Northeast Iowa. But so my wife and our three kids, we moved here in the summer of 2010, and we moved right here to District 1 in Fitchburg. And
Awesome.
we could have lived anywhere in Madison, and we just really love this area for a lot of different reasons. And so we moved into our house then in 2010, and so it's been, it's been a great spot to be in. We're so grateful. A little bit more on like the personal side. So I've been married for 21 years. I've got three kids, and I know, Joe, you got kids. You can relate to this, but kind of crazy. My oldest just got her permit. I don't even know what to think about that. So we're driving the streets of Fitchburg. I'm next to her and trying to stay out of accidents.
You got a sophomore?
Yeah, she is a sophomore. So that's a fun one. I've also got a 13-year-old son and then an 11-year-old daughter as well. So yeah, great, really fun ages. Just a ton of fun. So yeah.
Awesome. Is Iowa a ton different from Wisconsin?
What's interesting? When I moved here 11 years ago, and I showed up, and I was like, I'm from Iowa, or that's where we came from. I felt like most people like immediately were just like, well, he's going to be nice. And he's going to be pretty just like simple. I don't know. It was so funny. I was, and then, as soon as you start talking about where you're from, you start talking sports and things like that. And so I kind of showed my cards that I, kind of cheer for the Hawkeyes. And of course they're playing this week, the Badgers, but every year, that would come out, and people in Wisconsin would be like, how can you not like the Badgers? It's not even just like, it's just something's wrong with you if you would choose another team over the Badgers. We're in Iowa, they're passionate about their sports, but it's kind of like, oh, we get it. We understand why you cheer for others. So there's not a whole lot difference, but I'd say in Wisconsin, I think there's a lot more pride around just being a Wisconsinite, and that's for a lot of good reasons, no doubt. But that's some of the differences. Yeah.
Yeah, Badger fans are nice. We're real passionate, but we won't hurt you. Don't move to Ohio though. I'm just giving you that heads up. Like, don't go to Columbus. Or if you do, you might have to hide that part of your identity.
Now I was telling someone who just kind of rolled into our church not too long ago, and he graduated from Ohio State. And I was like, you might want to just keep that on the DL that you are from there, just for a while before people get to know you. So
yeah,
that was kind of fun.
I wore a Badger hoodie once when I visited Columbus, and somebody told me I just needed to change. Just get out, don't wear that. And it was a friend. So tell me a little bit more about why you decided to move to Wisconsin and why Fitchburg.
Yeah. So we moved here in 2010 actually to be a part of starting a church that had a vision for starting other churches in the area. And so originally it was myself and two other pastors and their families moved to start what is currently called the Vine Church. And it's right off of kind of on the frontage road on 906 Ann Street area there, off Fish Hatchery Road. So that was started in 2010. And, as with any startup, it's just a huge risk. And then also when you think about the dynamic of starting up a faith-based organization, right? A church, it's even a greater risk, right? Because it's just different, but we really, our hope was really to move to the area, and the belief that there's this, was at the core of the Christian faith is just this term gospel. It's good news. And we really just thought, we really believe that good news changes people, and that actually makes it better for the whole community. And so that, with that in mind, that's really what kind of fueled our move here. And so we were actually, then of course, planted out of that original church to then plant a church in Fitchburg. And so that's where we currently are. So yeah, there you go.
So I remember hearing, and I never listened to it, but I remember hearing a podcast about church planting, and just like all the dynamics that are involved in that. But it sounds like from what you're telling me, you sort of have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. So I remember when I first went to Redeemer City, Casey told me that he used to operate nightclubs. And I was like, oh, I could see that, because there's like a definitely, it's big, it's sort of empty. It's got space, but it seems multi-purpose. You can move stuff around. But I'm wondering with you, what was it in you, apart from the faith part, that sort of made you hardwired to be able to do something so risky and something that isn't secure?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably multifaceted, right? But I think at its core, when you're starting something new, you get to start from scratch. You get to kind of create what you think is going to be the most effective way to see this thing played out. And so that's kind of like the beauty of it, the allure of starting something, and particularly starting a church. You can say, here's what we're about, and here's what we're really focused on, and here's what we really think, as we work this out, this is what's going to benefit the community that we're actually seeking to land in and to be around. And so we just thought this is the most effective way to see, a city kind of see and display and hear about this gospel. So that's, it's crazy. It is. And
Yeah.
Casey did start nightclubs. I'm so glad he was he was a part of planting, because it's different starting a church than nightclubs. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
there's transferable skills.
Yeah, that's right. Transferable. Yeah.
So have you ever been a 9-to-5 guy, or have you sort of from the jump been somebody that's been entrepreneurial?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I don't know as if, let's put it this way. I don't know as if I would call myself, feel like I'm really that entrepreneurial. In one sense, like I have I have this gumption desire for it, but in terms of the skills, honestly, a lot of it's just the team you build around you, the people you bring along for the ride that make it what it is. And so you kind of make that first step, and then you just hope that someone, steps in with you and helps you kind of co-create this thing and see what happens. And that's what, that's honestly what's happened. So we're grateful for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk more about that team building aspect and more about the church when we get back. Welcome back to D-1 All-Stars. I believe we're on episode 7, but I could be wrong. We're back here with Nate Hobert, director of Redeemer City Church, head pastor, I believe, correct? And we were talking about the church and about one thing that I really want to dive deep into is building a team. So I feel like that's an important concept, whether you're talking about faith-based organizations or not. What defines a good team and how do you build one?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it's a great question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There's a couple things when I think about it. One is you just want to have a diverse team. And by diverse, I mean, that can be a number of different things, but one is you just need different gifts around the table. You need people who think things through differently. And so it can't, I don't know, it can't all look like you. It can't all be like you. I was thinking of, I remember in the early days when we were starting up our first church in 2010, and I remember a couple showing up and they're very quiet and kind of a little bit like not super social, nice, but not super social. And I remember thinking like, I wonder where this is going to fit or how this is going to go. And I honestly, like, I just thought like, oh, these people will kind of have a small impact. They won't be kind of core or essential in some dynamic, but you have like a lens for that, and what soon happened was these were just the core people behind the scenes who were doing all the different sound setup. They were doing all of the lights, and they're bringing things that we didn't even think about into the experience. And I think those are the unique pieces about when you start to think about building a vision and a team is you don't know who's going to show up. And then when people start showing up, you start to identify, just through conversation, like what experience do you have? What are you excited about? I mean, I remember one of the first, when we were like developing a core team with our church plan, that's one of the things you do. You gather a core team of people and you talk about the vision of what you want to see happen, of what it could look like. And I remember she was serving as a social worker at one of the public schools here. And one of the things we had talked about in our kind of core team meeting was just about this expression of loving our neighbor and what would that look like, and thinking about trying to identify some of the needs in our community. And one of the most beautiful things that happened about that was here's a person who had a pulse on it. They knew the ins and outs. And that was really some of the early days in which, she began to set up actually through the school, a number of different programs to help in certain areas where kids were getting bussed in and bring resources to the parents and the kids there. And it was kind of one of those beautiful like pieces coming together, because in one way it just meant for our like group of like 15 to 20 people at the time, like we can bake goods. Yep. We can show up and set up. That's about what we can do. But that was a piece of what that group needed to get that done. And it was just, it's one of those things where that wouldn't have happened outside of that connection and that relationship. So, I mean, those are some of the aspects of it.
Yeah. So when you're talking about a team, you're not just talking about sort of the folks that are going to work for the church. You're talking about like all the volunteers and all the people in the neighborhood and the folks that might be resources to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great way of looking at it. And I've found the same thing. It's just working on different projects in the city. People will just randomly pop in, and it will be the person you don't expect, and they'll just offer help. And sometimes you just have to notice when somebody is really an asset and resource to you, and just appreciate them and utilize them, more and keep bringing more folks in. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, Redeemer City, why Fitchburg, why the location that you're in, and sort of what it's been like since you've been in operation.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When we started thinking about planting, we could have planted anywhere in Madison, but we located kind of the southwest part of Madison Primarily for a number of things. One, it's just a growing area. I mean, it's just expanding. A lot of people moving here. So that's always a good sign,
Yeah.
start something new. It's good to have people around it,
Yep.
But secondly, I had already lived here for 4 or 5 years. I was working part-time at the Starbucks down on McKee Road there. I was,
Nice.
I was right in the community. So it made a lot of sense to think about this area here. And, in some sense, like in terms of where we started, originally we couldn't even find a place to meet in Fitchburg. There wasn't a location. We couldn't find a location to meet. So we actually met at Chavez Elementary for the first 4 years. And
Really?
if you know Chavez, that's not in Fitchburg. But the cool part was the places where we were serving, they actually bussed students over from Fitchburg. So we had at least some connections there, which is really cool. So, you're just rolling in, rolling out, doing those things and so forth. But when we started to think about a location and a facility where we are right now, one of the main reasons is we'd always been thinking about like where are areas where there's a lack of resources or there's needs that we could be a part of a community to just come alongside. And so this particular space, just because of all the work on 151, had just dropped in price. So,
Yep.
that was part of that dynamic. But then within Fitchburg, there's kind of 3 healthy neighborhood initiatives, right? And if you look on the map, King James area is one of those places. And one of the things that was lacking in that area was just a facility for any sort of community stuff. And so it's kind of funny. Originally, we'd actually talked to the city and talked to some of the people about the old fire station. Like we had some crazy ideas in the early days. I mean, like legitimately, like, hey, what could we do here, there, and work? But a big reason why we kind of targeted this area and thought about this building was thinking about, how could we not only just have a space in which you think about a church, like meet on a Sunday, right? But how could we be a place where we could actually think about how we build this out? And this is what Casey did such a good job at, thinking about how do we build this space out so that other groups can actually utilize this space so it can be for the common good. Whether people right, are part of our church or not, we wanted to be a place where it was just for the common good. And so that was what really galvanized our people, because we've been doing that from the beginning. And that's what enabled us to get in. So, yeah.
Awesome. So the spot that you're in right now, that used to be a furniture retailer, right?
Yeah, they would it's kind of like a high-end kitchen place that would redo homes and so forth. So, yeah.
So I was just struck by when I walked in the door, what the space looked like, and how big it was, how many rooms there were, and also no offense, like how empty it was, right? Like there weren't sort of these established rooms with these stuck furniture to the floor. It was just a big, large space that looks like it can be used in a lot of different ways. Can you tell me kind of more about how you developed the space, how you all made it what it is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think firstly, I'll just put up front, like Casey and his wife, Angela, were the ones that really spearheaded a lot of that work and just did an incredible job. In fact, Angela was the one who drew up the original design. And so on one element, if the space, it has like these huge 19-foot ceilings. I mean, it's like at different points, that was great. It's just nice to have those big open spaces. But in terms of thinking a couple different things, when you walk in, you'll notice like it's just a big kind of gathering area with a kitchen, a huge open kitchen.
Yes.
And in one sense, it's like, who doesn't like to eat and who doesn't like to just, to show some hospitality. So I think a lot of the reason why the design of that was just, hey, we want to eat together. We want to provide a place where people can come together and have good food and, in one sense, be kind of like a larger home experience, It was really important to us. And then, a big part of this too is some of the flexibility of the room. So there's a multi-purpose room that again has a lot, you've been in there, Joe. It just has a
Yep.
lot of open space. It can be set up a number of different ways. Um, it actually is, temporarily can be set up for some of our like our children's things on Sunday, but it's so flexible, we don't even leave that set up, so different groups can use it. And
I
then the
love
other
it.
side of it, we've got some offices and a conference room. And again, the design around those things was primarily not just for ourselves, but also for other groups that could come in and utilize a space that could help meet, needs in the community. And so those spaces are, intermittently being used throughout the week, multiple times. But I'll never forget, Casey, I'll never forget when we were not even done with the like. I mean, it was all the way gutted and
Yeah.
rebuilt from ground up. And I'll never forget, we were maybe like 75% through the rebuild. And Casey brought in all these community partners and just started to ask, hey, what are some ways that you could use this? And that's just been kind of the heartbeat of Redeem Receive since the beginning. And so it was a fun time because it was like putting bricks and mortar to the vision, right, of what
Yeah.
we were as a community. And that was what was so wonderful about it. So
Now imagine if all of our systems could operate like that, where you just brought people in and asked them, "What do you want?" and actually did it. That's great. So we're going to take a break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the neighborhood itself. So
awesome.
D1 All Stars featuring Nate Hobert, and I'm Joe Maldonado. We'll see you in a few. Nate, Joe, D1 All Stars, we're back. So now I want to dig into what we always ask all of our guests, which is tell us about the neighborhood. What do you love about the neighborhood? What do you want to see more of?
Yeah. I think in terms of what I love about the neighborhood is it's just a wide variety of just demographics all across the board. And so, I mean, in one sense, like my neighbor next door has lived here since the house was built, which is
Yeah.
like, right, late, 70s or whatever it is, in 70s, whatever. And then you have, the young couple that moves in across the way, and you have that range, and then you have all the thing in between. And so in one sense, it's just been a really great place for a family. I mean, there's just really enjoyed the neighborhood. Specifically, our street has been just a great place to be. And I think, in some ways, I think what's really unique about District 1, and this even more than I know it, Joe, but like just as it relates to demographically, it's a composite of the larger, area of Fitchburg in terms of just diversity. There's just so much there. And I think that's one of the things that I think that's one of the things that I think we can grow in as a community, is really seeing those relationships have a common space to be together and to meet. And I think it can be easy in Fitchburg, particularly to feel disconnected from different pieces of it, and not to feel all connected. And so I think in one way or another, you just threw not too long ago, right, the party in the Pocket Park,
Yep.
and the thing showing up at that thing, it's like, here are people that live 2 minutes from me. And again, you introduced me to so many of them. It's so great, but like, these are my neighbors, and they're just distinct. They're different from me, but they live right down the block. And to have moments and opportunities like that to meet people and to get to know a little bit about who they are and their background, I think that's only going to make a community stronger. And I
Yeah.
think that's why, I just think that's one of the things I just think we can continue to grow in as a community. So
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing about that event we had was I had so many people coming up to us saying like, "Man, there's never been anything like this in the park. Like, we never really have anything." And it's just, I agree with you that we just need gathering spaces and we need to be able to have places where people can meet and connect. So I want to give you a shout out because, from the jump, you all have been open to anything I bring your way. Hey, we need a polling place. Okay, come on through. That didn't work out because of COVID logistics, but like you
Yeah.
guys were willing and able. And then, we had a partner in the community, a woman, Yana Williams, who runs a youth group, and she said, "We need a space, need somewhere for our kids to gather socially distanced." And this was in the middle of the pandemic, like in 2020. And you all were like, "Come on in." And from there on, you just started doing programming 2 days a week in your space. And, now that we're going to kind of move forward with trying to get the teen center going, you guys have been open to hosting. I just really appreciate you all being a space where people can come and gather and meet, and it speaks to your intention, behind having the church is just being a place for the community. Are there other things that you want to see in your neighborhood? Other things that would make our community even stronger?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, comes down to, Joe, one of the things I appreciate about you, Joe, is you just are a relational, like, networking fiend. I don't know how. I feel like if I know you, I probably know almost, like, right. It's like everybody in this district, just because I know you in some degree. I'm like one person away. But I really appreciate just that dynamic of having that relationship with you and the people you connect me to, and vice versa, and how we can do that together. I mean, again, I'm really looking forward. You were talking a moment ago about some of the study being done with the teen center and so forth. I've lived here for 11 years, and I know what it's like as a father, as a husband with 3 kids, to raise a family in this time, and what that's like and the challenges. But I know that's unique across the board. And in a lot of ways, like, I'm really curious to know kind of what that study will communicate to what are the needs in our community, and how do we, come together, because there's a lot of resources that we have that are right here in our neighborhood, that I really think can serve the whole gambit of wherever people are coming from. And so, but we just don't maybe know how to connect it, or even know what those are. And to be a part of that, that's what, more than anything, gets me excited about this relationship and being where we are. So
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what you said with Casey. We just need to get people in the room to tell us what they want, and we have to deliver on what they're asking us to do. So, Nate, I appreciate your service, and I appreciate your time. This is D1 All Stars with Nate Hobart. And if they want to go to Redeemer City Church, give them your address real quick.
yeah, it's just 5356 King James Way. So come stop by.